We had really 4 real good days with our rookies, and we just finished up a really well prepared and well executed third day of practice with the veterans. So these are going well. Let's get it started.
What do you thought of Martavis Bryant so far, first 2 days you've seen him?
Yeah, he's been good, just as we had expected when we traded for him. Explosive player, but had a good first 3 days.
What was it like for you being back in Napa? Was it like kind of a bit of deja vu?
Yeah, a little deja vu again. As John said, you see a lot of familiar faces, whether it be with the media or with people in the building. So that makes it familiar, makes the transition, much easier coming back.
What have you seen out of your rookie tackles, Brandon Parker and Colton Miller?
Real excited about both those two guys. They made tremendous strides when they got here throughout the OTAs and the June mini camp, and they both had both of them had a good summer, and we've thrown them in the mix right now. We're kind of rolling those guys. Obviously, Colton's played with the starting group on every period that we have, and we rolled Brandon in there as well. But they both look really solid.
You've been with John in different places before, obviously, and he's notoriously, at least the reputation is that he's notoriously tough on quarterbacks. What have you seen in that relationship thus far between John and Derek?
Well, probably the most exciting thing about it is how well the 3 quarterbacks, all 3, Derek, Connor and EJ, have taken to it and taken to the hard coaching. I think they're, developing a bit of thick skin. They know that everything that he tells them is meant to improve them, and they've been great with it. I think they appreciate that. I think they appreciate the hard coaching, and they've responded.
Are you the good cop to the bad cop in that situation?
We're just here to coach the quarterbacks the best we can and try and get the best out of them.
Jordy Nelson is 33 years old. I mean, a player goes beyond the age of 30. People tend to write them off, but something that Gruden and Derek both said yesterday is, he's not his age. What have you seen from him, in particular from an explosive speed standpoint?
Yeah, I think as we've seen the first 3 days, if you've been out here, he's made some impressive catches, and he's shown exceptional speed after the catch. So, the trick to those players to me is how you manage them throughout the season, so that their legs don't get worried. So we've got a number of veterans that we'll keep an eye on throughout training camp and make sure that they get to the regular season fresh.
When you look at your wideouts as a whole, seems like they obviously share some traits, but some of them have different strengths. Does that help you when you're creating plays for these guys, that you have a deep guy, you have a good route runner, you have a good hands?
Yeah, we have good slot guys. Certainly, I think that's part of it in putting together the roster. I think with what John would like to do creatively, offensively, and what we're doing, I think he's done a good job. I think we've done a good job of bringing in players of different strengths, and we're able to get in and out of different personnel groupings, and I think that'll allow us to keep defenses off balance.
What have you seen from the running game so far? I know it's kind of hard to judge when they're not in pads yet, but what have you seen in terms of opening up the running lanes for Marshall?
Yeah, it's difficult, as you said, without the pads. But again, right now, especially when you're first starting out, it's about assignments and mental errors. And as we've gone through 3 days, we've had very minimal mental errors. We'll find out more once we get into some of the live work, but we've been pleased right now with where they're at mentally.
Do you think Amari can make the jump to get the level of Odell, Julio, and why, if so?
Yeah, we do. Again, he's a very productive player at Alabama. Been a very productive player here in the NFL and with the Raiders, and I think just getting him back on track and him staying healthy will be a big part of it. But he came in tremendous shape. He's a guy that loves the weight room. He's bigger, stronger, and healthy right now, so we're excited about that.
Greg, you were with John in 2008, which was I think his last year before he went to TV. And obviously practices are different now because of CBA and different things that you have to do. But in terms of his energy, the way he approaches things, do you see any change at all? Does he delegate any more than he did before?
No, none at all. No, not at all. It's a good question, Jerry. He is the same guy, and I've tried to, when you try to convince the players of that are seeing him for the first time, is he like this all the time? He'll be like this from week 3 through week 16. That's just his personality. That's who he is. He's going to try and, for him, he's going to create energy at practice. He talks about all the time. It's about the preparation phase. It's also about the presentation. He believes very strongly in his presentation, and he does it both. He's excellent at it. So he's going to stimulate him. He's going to motivate him, and he's going to be the same guy throughout the season.
What are your thoughts on Seth Roberts and his progression from when you first seen him to now?
Stronger, bigger, much better probably in all phases. be honest with you. And I think now that we brought in guys to compete with him too, and I think that'll allow him to take another step as well. But I like where he's at physically. I think his body's changed since I've been here, and certainly his route running has gotten better. He's more competitive, and he's a more confident player.
When you're looking at your backup quarterbacks, EJ was the number 2 guy last year. Does that give him a leg up, or is this truly an open competition?
No, it's truly an open competition, and we've explained that to the quarterbacks. We've sat all 3 of them down and let them know how we're going to rotate the reps here throughout training camp, and we're really that'll be a big area for us to evaluate throughout training camp, is to try and find that number 2 quarterbacks. But right now it's an open competition with those 2 guys.
What does Doherty bring to the wide receivers room, given his experience and
obviously tremendous leadership. He's a tremendous leader. He's a mentor to the younger players. I think they really appreciate that, including Amari. I think that's a good relationship there with those 2. You see them together a lot and talking, and so that's been real positive. But I would say just his professionalism that he brings to that room.
What's the difference in evaluation from all of OTA's mini camp when it's just shorts and no shoulder pads to tomorrow when finally the pads come on as a coaching staff?
Yeah, I think there are a lot of players, and coached long enough to know that there's a lot of great players in shorts, and that you go to that next level where you put the pads on. Now you really find out a little bit about what they have in terms of their toughness, and you have to be tough to play at this level. It's a man's sport, and there are a lot of guys that maybe can come out and run routes and catch the ball, and running backs that can run through holes without pads. But once you get the pads on, you get a real feel for how tough that player is.
You've been in the league for a while. How often does that happen where a guy you think is a player for you put on the pads, he really isn't, and likewise a guy who you're wondering, what does this guy bring? Then physicality comes out, and you say, okay, this is someone we can count on.
Yeah, many examples. Really, over my 17 years, I've seen many examples where I could say that, and it's happened at all positions, whether it be offensive line or a skill position. I've seen it at all positions, at quarterback, in terms of courage in the pocket. You don't get a real feel for that until they have live bullets coming at them.
Any guy in particular that you're?
They're all. I could tell you a bunch of guys that maybe it surprised me, but there's guys that've gone the other way that have surprised me the other way as well.
You were here with Tony Sparano in 2014 when he took over as head coach. What are you going to remember about the connections he made with players and what the kind of guy he was to work with?
Yeah, such a sad story there on Tony Sparano, and it was really just hard to imagine, hard to believe what his family's going through, and certainly what that team's going through right now. But he just, to me, he's real, very grounded person. Family was so important to him. He's a great husband, a great father, and a great grandfather. I think when he talked about his grandkids, his face really lit up. But I just thought he's a great role model as a father and a husband, grandfather, and a really dedicated football coach.
On the quarterbacks, what's the next step for kind of Cook to become an effective quarterback? What's holding him back?
He's got to be much more consistent. We've seen some good things from him, but he's got to do a much better job of taking care of the football and just a more consistent play.